Howdy fellow tubers! Welcome back for another game design foray in examining the linearity problem. If you missed the first video, this series is critically responding to the assertion that classic linear designed games told better stories and had a better sense of progression specifically because their design was linear. I was very glad to see the first video resonated with people willing to discuss the topic with an open mind. So, as promised, here's the next entry covering Majora's Mask. Starting off, I want to reiterate, I am not here to tell you linear game design is bad, or that you can't tell better stories with linear game design. There's a lot of value in linear design, both for the literary narrative and the mechanical narrative. I just don't think most classic games are better than modern games at this, and when they are, I don't think it's because they were linear. Some agreeable commenters mentioned they thought Majora's Mask fixed Ocarina of Time's flaws in this department. And while it has incredible potential to have been an improvement, it is my opinion that it not only fails to do so, but is arguably worse at capitalizing on linear narrative because of fundamental problems with the Ocarina of Time formula and the Zelda devs' design/writing style. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's reiterate the main story of Majora's Mask so we can discuss this on the same page. We start with Link traversing the Lost Woods, searching for a missing friend. He comes across a Skull Kid wearing a strange mask and two fairies. They steal the Ocarina of Time and then ride away on Epona. While chasing them, Link falls down a strange hole, and while he's disoriented, Skull Kid uses the power of the mask to turn him into a Deku Scrub. He then leaves him to suffer, and while he does so, one of the fairies gets left behind, tormenting Link. Worried for her brother, she decides to join forces with Link until she can at least catch up to Skull Kid. After Link progresses, despite some growing pains getting used to the advantages and disadvantages of being a Deku Scrub, the fairy introduces herself as Tattle, and she, plus Link, walk through a twisted corridor that ends with them both inside the base of a clock tower. They meet a creepy mask salesman, who was the previous owner of Majora's Mask, and he informs Link that if he gets the Ocarina of Time back, he can return to normal. Tattle suggests Link seek out the aid of the local Great Fairy, but begins to comprehend the severity of the situation when they learn that the Great Fairy has had her power shattered by Skull Kid. Thankfully, restoring the Great Fairy is fairly easy, and upon doing so, she bestows Link with magic, which unfortunately, in his diminished form of a scrub child, only serves to enable him to blow bubbles, which turn out to be an even less effective ranged projectile than his slingshot. However, this is enough to gain the attention of the Bomber Gang, a bunch of local boys who like making mischief, but also like to help people. With their aid, Link finds his way into an astronomical observatory, and through its telescope, he discovers the Skull Kid's location on top of the clock tower. After waiting until the end of the festival for a passage to the clock tower to open, Link and Tattle confront Skull Kid just in time to learn he intends to drop the moon onto the planet, causing an apocalyptic event. Tattle's brother Tail provides the vague but straightforward advice to bring those who are at each of the regions of this country to hold back the moon. Link can't achieve this in the time they have, but he manages to acquire the Ocarina of Time and uses the Song of Time to send himself and Tattle back to the beginning of the first day they arrived in Termina. Having bought some time to stop the apocalypse, the two revisit the Happy Mask Salesman, who teaches Link the Song of Healing to restore his true form. But in learning Link hasn't gotten Majora's Mask back for him, he describes the dark history of Majora's Mask and just how powerful and dangerous it is, insisting that Even if Link has his true form back, and this is debatably not his problem anymore, he should still get Majora's Mask back, or they may all be doomed. Returned to his Hylian form, Link, though still a child, has the skills, and more importantly his sword, to convince the guards he's capable of surviving outside the city walls. He wanders around Termina Field until he comes across a drawing of a Skull Kid and two fairies. Tattle laments that the Skull Kid wasn't always the way he is now, but he has changed since they stole the mask. Later, after helping a witch in the woods, a group of talking monkeys request Link's help in rescuing one of their own from the Deku Scrubs. Upon infiltrating the palace to rescue said monkey, the monkey tells Link he was imprisoned because the princess went to a local temple and was captured by a monster. When he came to the Scrubs for help, they blamed him for her disappearance. Link then travels to rescue the princess in order to save the monkey. Along the way, Termina's version of Kaepora Gabora appears to tell Link that if fate remains as it is, moon or no moon, all of the regions of this land are destined to fade away. But seeing as Link is a powerful hero, he may yet be able to do something. Link marches through Woodfall Temple, having done the same thing many times before, and Tattle, impressed by his skills, compliments him and apologizes for her part in their current predicament. The giant, freed from Majora's Mask's corruption, then teaches a song to call the giants when the time to stop the moon comes. After returning the princess to rescue the monkey, Link and Tattle make their way to the mountains. Link comes to learn that it's not normally like this. The inhabitants of the mountain are in dire circumstances, just like the people of the swamp. Kaepora Gabora directs Link to the Lens of Truth, and it reveals the spirit of a deceased hero of the Gorons, who failed to stop the blizzard currently burying the mountain in snow. Using the song the masked salesman taught him, Link heals the sorrow of the spirit and gains his power in the form of a mask. Using this Goron form, Link is able to better engage with the Gorons, and learn their lullaby that will put the possessed giant Goron, blowing those off the path to Snowhead Temple, asleep. He then proceeds to march through another temple and fight another giant. After clearing out Snowhead Temple, this giant is able to inform Link and Tattle that they are guardians of the region. With the snow cleared from the mountain, and the power of the Goron form, Link is able to purchase a much more powerful explosive than traditional bombs, which he uses to open a path Skull Kid blocked off to a ranch where Epona has been kept. With Epona's help, Link wins a race against the Gorman brothers to receive a strange mask, and is able to jump over the fences blocking the path to the canyon and the ocean. He stops by the canyon, and while he is unable to ascend the plateau, he lays the skeleton of a general to rest, uses the mask he received from that to discover a ghost who teaches him the Song of Storms to combat his brother's music, and he rescues a Termanian soldier who has been immobilized in this desolate place. Moving on to the ocean, Link finds the hero of the Zora, who has been mortally wounded trying to reclaim the eggs containing his children from pirates. With his spirit laid to rest, and Link possessing the power of Azora, he braves a pirate stronghold to rescue the eggs. While there, he learns the pirates lost some of the eggs over a place called Pinnacle Rock. Returning from the fortress, Link finds that the water around Pinnacle Rock is too murky to see the path. But fortunately he encounters a seahorse in a shop on the beach that requests Link's help in exchange for guiding him to Pinnacle Rock. Unfortunately, this leads to another task wherein the merchant requires a picture of a lady pirate to trade for the seahorse. Thanks to the stone mask he got from the soldier in Iconic Canyon, Link acquires said picture with relative ease, and having been freed, the seahorse guides Link to Pinnacle Rock, where he battles several large eels for the rest of the eggs. Upon hauling the last of the eggs to the aquarium set aside for their hatching, they reveal the song required to summon a turtle that transports Link to the Great Bay Temple. After clearing out this temple, the third giant asks Link and Tattle to help their friends. With only the canyon remaining, Link uses the strange mask he won in the race against the Gorman brothers to convince the one-eyed man at the top of the plateau to let him into the canyon. Several layers up, Link discovers a number of caverns related to the Icona Kingdom and something called the Stone Tower Temple. In the middle of it all is a music box-shaped house surrounded by Gibdos. Link makes his way around these until he finds the cavern that contains Sharp, the brother of Flat, the ghost who taught him the Song of Storms, and sets him back to his right mind with that song, freeing the water supply and repowering the music box to repel the Gibdos. Link tricks the little girl living in the music box house to gain entry, where he discovers her scientist father, who has begun transforming into a Gibdo due to the music of Sharp. He then uses a Song of Healing to cure the scientists of the mummification that had set in, and with the resulting mask, he's able to barter his way past a number of Gibdos to acquire a mirror shield. He then uses the power to reflect light and commune with the dead safely to enter Icona Castle. After defeating the king and his top soldiers, the king entrusts Link to their vengeance against Majora's Mask, providing him with a Song of Emptiness that allows Link to leave behind hollowed shells of the bodies of the souls residing in each of the heroes' masks, which is necessary for Link to climb the canyon walls to reach the Stone Tower Temple. Link then works his way through one last temple to free the final giant, who asks Tattle to forgive her friend. With all the giants freed, Link confronts the Skull Kid at midnight on the third day, and summons the giants to stop the moon. With the moon stopped, it's revealed Skull Kid was not the one orchestrating events. He was merely a puppet for Majora's Mask. It then retreats inside the moon to crush the giants and Termina. Tattle argues Link should go back in time and try again, but after some arguments between Tattle and Tail, she's ultimately persuaded to go with Link inside the moon, which turns out to be an ethereal otherworld. There, he meets many strange children, wearing masks of the various boss enemies and Majora. After talking with them a bit, he fights Majora's Mask and defeats it. The power cleansed from the mask, Link awakens sometime later in Termina Field. The moon dissolves and reappears in the sky. The giants bid farewell, but Skull Kid realizes they never wanted to end their friendship. After they leave, Skull Kid remarks Link reminds him of a fairy kid who taught him a song, and wonders if he would like to be friends. Tattle, Tail, and Skull Kid enjoy the festival after saying goodbye, and Link travels back through the woods, leaving a drawing of himself being friends with Skull Kid, Tattle, and Tail. Now that we've established the overall narrative of Majora's Mask, let's get into those problems I mentioned. The first problem is something I glossed over in the Ocarina of Time video. Virtually every mainline Zelda story starts with a thematic premise that is far more conducive to roaming around in a non-linear, open series of stories than strictly linear quests that build up one step at a time. In Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword, Link grew up in a rural community and is called to freely explore a greater world with clear but extremely loose and open objectives. These are all scenarios begging for stories about messy, directionless, youthful exploration, where Link gradually pieces together what's going on and how to stop it in a non-linear fashion. However, for the sake of this discussion, they are also reasonably confinable to a linear story if the Zelda devs were willing to add a lot more dialogue and character development. I already outlined a list of incredibly small changes that would have elevated Ocarina of Time closer to the caliber people hold it to. Both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess have decent excuses baked into their plot, with close loved ones directly in danger, and guides that have even more investment in keeping things on task than Link. Even considering my personal disdain for Skyward Sword's story, I will acknowledge that there's the outline of a rough draft, of an okay linear story buried very, very deep in Skyward Sword's premise. But Majora's Mask. Fellow tubers, Zelda fans of varying levels of hostility, Koroks of all shapes and sizes, Majora's Mask is a Groundhog's Day time loop. This is one of the messiest, most chaotic narrative premises in fiction. Literally the only reason this kind of story can even achieve a semblance of cohesion in non-interactive mediums like literature and film is because the director and writer picked and chose the specific moments during individual loops relevant to the story they wanted to tell. Interactive mediums like video games don't have that luxury. In video games, the player is the amateurish, directionless writer, and they rarely tell a cohesive or linear story. They run around solving puzzles as they encounter them. Half the time, they learn moral and mechanical lessons at a rate slower than even Phil Connors in Punxsutawney. There are few premises in gaming less solid as a foundation for a linear story than what Majora's Mask chooses to tell. And while this problem could still be resolved or lessened by having a clearly defined arc for the main character to go through, lest we forget, this is the Zelda franchise, and the second problem with the Zelda franchise's stories is that there is no fully realized main character, whose existence is the compass guiding the player through the open world of whatever land the game takes place in. For the discussion of Majora's Mask, it's not Tattle's story because she has very little growth over the story and doesn't do much to earn the ending. It's not Majora's Mask's story because we only see the aftermath of its effects and presumably its end. And of course, it's not Hyrule, Zelda, or Ganondorf stories because they are sirs and ladies not appearing in this picture. No matter how I look at it, this is a story about the hero of time, and a very impactful adventure that happened to him after his journey was supposed to be over. So let's see the places where the literary and mechanical narrative fail to tell that story. Starting with the literary narrative, just as with Ocarina of Time not having a real reason for Link to visit the various regions of Hyrule in a specific order once he has Zelda's lullaby, the same is true for Termina after Link returns to the dawn of the first day with the Song of Time. The individual races have no participation in each other's plights. The scrubs only care that their princess is saved and the swamp is no longer poisoned. The Gorons immediately start playing as soon as the snow stops falling. The Zoras are either too weak or too in denial that there even is a problem to participate. And the inhabitants of the iconic canyon are either ninjas that don't want to be seen by anybody, or already lost a major fight with Majora's Mask. Link and Tattle's conversation in Termina Field doesn't build up through other conversations over the course of the game. There's meaning to the order the giants deliver their messages in. But seeing as their encounters are identical, the sequence of messages can simply come based on how many giants Link has met, as opposed to which individual giant he is speaking to. On that note, I'd like to take a moment to harp on how ridiculously forced it is that Tattle just decides they are headed to the mountains after the Swamp Temple for no narratively established reason. Then there's all the choose-your-own-adventure moments caused by the mechanics colliding with the Groundhog Day time loop premise. Is there a canonical number of loops it took for Link to find the Garo, Stone, and Captain masks, or Flat the Poe and the Seahorse? and how many more until he discovered what purpose they all serve. This isn't something you can hand wave away the way other abstractions of game design limitations can be. Whether the story is saying Link is the kind of obsessive ADHD person that he looks into every aspect of the people around him, looking specifically for something to help or challenge, and that obsession is enough to distract him from the forward momentum of the task at hand, or the story is saying he is just running around doing random things, hoping a solution would present itself, so he spent several loops switching between the canyon and the ocean and the canyon and the ocean. The choice between those two different types of characterizations matters significantly. Either example doesn't easily lend themselves to only 4 or 5 repetitions of the same 3 days. Because while we as players might be used to rushing through an entire region storyline in one 3-day cycle, narratively, there is no reason for Link to know that's possible, let alone how to do it. Moving on to the mechanical narrative, it's fascinating how this game simultaneously tells a fairly solid story about Link's ongoing adventures post Ocarina of Time through its mechanics, while also hilariously undermining that exact same story because of the reused assets and having to rehash a lot of exact mechanical beats because of the Zelda formula. Let me explain. During the mechanical narrative, Link is actively growing up and finding his purpose in life over the course of Majora's Mask. It begins when, while confined to an even more helpless form than the child form he's already emotionally outgrown, he rolls with the punches and pushes through like a man till he regains his Hylian form. With his sword back, Link demonstrates not only growth in physical skill, but more importantly, interpersonal communication, as he is instantly able to get the guards to respect him in a way none of the guards in Ocarina of Time would have. Each dungeon item he acquires demonstrates that he's perfectly capable of using all the tools young Link was barred from in Ocarina of Time, casually wielding the Hylian shield from the start, then eventually the bow, magic arrows, and hookshot the second he has them back in his arsenal. Through the hero masks, he regains the size and status of a respected adult, and finally, despite being gifted with the power to reset time seemingly infinitely, he decisively marches into the other world inside of the moon to end the chaos once and for all. Silently declaring that while the job Hylia and the sages set aside for him in this incarnation may be done, no matter what form his body takes, his spirit will always be the hero of time. It's just a shame that I've been lying to you this whole time. None of that's true, and this is another fresh-faced child with no backstory who happens to be good at adventuring, and therefore none of that was representative of any character growth whatsoever. Because honestly, Ocarina of Time Link created the Song of Storms, not this guy. Ocarina of Time Link was already writing Epona. He does not need you to teach him Epona's song, Romani. And don't get me started on the absolute joke, Link needing to go to the swamp for a bow or to stop the thief for a bomb bag is. I can accept some hand waves for Link just not bothering to bring the mirror shield with him on the trip because of how bulky it would be. And not having Hyrule's version of the Lens of Truth because he returned it to some Sheikah relative of the original owner. But I refuse to believe this guy, let alone this guy, childish body or not, marched into the woods his childhood family repeatedly warned him would end in a restless afterlife, which he has personally seen the consequences of, without a slingshot or a bomb bag. Also, the individual heroes' masks are unnecessary to do in a specific order, with the Deku Scrub getting its tutorial on the first day, and the Goron mask being useless in the Zora's dungeon. With that long diatribe over, let's discuss what we've learned today. Number 1, be aware of the thematic nature of your story. If you insist on having a self-insert or silent protagonist, the forward momentum of the story happening around them not only has to be strong and carefully directed, that momentum has to be greater than the spiraling potential of your themes. Number 2, continuity is still very important. If this is a sequel that specifically is about the protagonist of a previous game, any mechanical traditions your franchise has that involve starting from scratch need to be seriously considered and either ignored or thoroughly explained away, because you risk losing any value from this being a sequel if you don't. Now for the fun part. How do we fix it? Well, I thought long and hard about this, and there really is only one solution. Make Link talk.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Why are you still here? The video's over. I told you, we can't tell a decent story unless Link talks. Okay, fine. Link doesn't have to talk. But we really are going to have to invent a lot more dialogue than last time and reuse a lot of cutscenes to make this work, because several other characters are going to have to fill in for Mr. Self-Insert Mixed Silent Protagonist. To begin with, we get more scenes recapping Ocarina of Time's major plot beats, setting up for Majora's Mask's story, and throughout the rest of the game, we will be getting a lot of flashbacks. To save time and space, we literally copy-paste cutscenes or conversations as cutscenes. Ideally, we'd get a flashback each time we progress through each one of the regions, referencing the progressing friendship between Tattle, Tail, and Skull Kid, and illustrating the gradual corruption of the mask. But I acknowledge this particular addition is not only a lot of extra work, it's somewhat contrary to the sense of shock Tattle seems to register when the mask begins to talk and abandon Skull Kid. When Link earns the respect of the guards, there's a flashback to the guy who mocked Zelda and Link for playing hero. When Link enters Termina Field for the first time, he remembers Malon teaching him Epona's song, and the player can play it for the rest of the game, but until you open the path to the ranch for the first time, it will say something like, "The song seems lost on the wind." Walking through the maze to find Kome, Link remembers playing Saria's song for a Skull Kid. At the end of the Swamp Temple, instead of Tattle insisting they're going to the mountains next, she simply wonders if there's any places they can go now that Link has a bow. When meeting the son of the Goron's elder, Link has a flashback to becoming brother with the Gorons. After fighting Goat, Tattle marvels that they've actually gotten two of the giants' help, then wonders how they're going to get to the ocean and the canyon. Thankfully, after the mountain regions return to its summer state, Kaepora Gabora appears to congratulate Link and explain that the next two locations are blocked off at this time. But with a tool from the Gorons, he should be able to rescue a friend that can help. On the way to the ranches, something sparks a flashback to Sheik or Impa, prodding him to visit the Gorman brothers' ranch, which leads him to get the Garo mask. In the Romani ranch, Link simply plays Epona's song, and when she comes to Link, Romani observes that they were worried about Epona apparently being all on her own, but seeing as she responds to the song, Link must be her friend. While exploring the pirate base, Link remembers Naboru, and when he meets Lulu, he remembers Ruto. To further telegraph the headstone you need to dig up to meet Flat, while maintaining that Link wrote the Song of Storms, we would have the first half of the Song of Storms, that is to say, the rolling, repetitive carousel part, playing specifically over that headstone on all 3 days, indicating that that headstone has something special worth digging up. When Link talks to Flat, he mentions trying to compose a song to combat the music Sharp is playing, drying everything to the bone, and needing a song that brings the rain. Link has a flashback to the windmill and plays the Song of Storms. When Tatl tries to argue that they should reset things again instead of going inside the moon, Link has a flashback to being told he is the hero of time, and walks in boldly. Finally, one additional scene is shown after the friendship drawing on the stump, either showing Link riding into the sunset, or him returning to Lon Lon Ranch, implying him finally knowing where he wants to set down roots. So there's another critique of Zelda's linear design and storytelling. I admit, I had a hard time with this one, because I don't know the overall story of Majora's Mask nearly as well as Ocarina of Time's. And the Groundhog's Day time loop thing made it extremely difficult to not treat the fact that it would be better as a non-linear sandbox as a foregone conclusion. However, the more I thought about how cool the story of Link actually growing up and becoming the man who would become the hero Shade would have been, I found a revision I was satisfied with. In any case, I hope I offered some more insight into the places where Zelda and many other story-driven games stumble with linear design. If nothing else, I hope my revision to Majora's Mask's main story was entertaining. However you felt, or whatever you learned, God bless you, and next time you lament the modern formula, keep thinking about that linearity problem.